Hello.
We've
I'm
got
back.
45 minutes to discuss this before I go to my lecture at 4.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Overall,
Um,
fellas, just how did we feel? Just
Alright.
very, very broadly.
We'll go in order of people in this thing. So it'll be Sam, me, then you. We'll speak.
That's really cute. I like that. I liked the book for. I wouldn't say I loved it. I thought it was an okay book. Would I read it again? Probably not. I wasn't in love with it, but it was quite charming. It was a very charming book, and I was taken aback by it. I appreciated it, but I didn't really like the ending that much,
Oh,
and I wasn't a huge fan of the ending because I think that Coraline draws a lot from fairy tales, and it has a lot of those fairy tale themes. Like it has, like the main villain overcomes,
Fairy tale things.
yeah, and the main character overcomes the nemesis through trickery, and it kind of felt like Hansel and Gretel, like along those veins, and
mm,
with those very common witchy characters trying to eat the souls of children. That was very fairy tale-esque to me as
mm,
well.
children's
Um,
souls.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And so my main gripe with it was that for something that was so fairy tale themed, I didn't really find the message that striking to me. Normally, when you have like a fairy tale or something, the message is super in your face and super obvious. But after finishing the book, I didn't really find it that like a message that striking. But it was still very charming, and I did enjoy it thoroughly. And it was very Alice in Wonderland esque, and it was good. I liked it.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay. Well, all right. Moving on to me. I reckon because, like, first of all, you just got to have to think about this. This is a children's book.
True.
Like, you
Mm-hmm.
can't like give it like you can't be too harsh on it in like regards to perhaps prose or like thematic potency, if that makes sense. But I think for a children's book, it is pretty nuanced for what it's saying. I really like that. I think it's not very much in your face. Like while I was reading it, I was just consistently like comparing it to the movie. And to the movie, it's like very clear cut. It's just like, oh, if you're ungrateful, then be careful what you wish for. And it's just like maybe it's not all that peachy. But here, it's not like that. She wasn't really necessarily ungrateful in her position. She was just bored, like one
Yeah.
day, and decided to go through a door. She wasn't ungrateful for her parents. And which is a bit weird because it means that I don't think she goes through a character arc in this book.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? She starts off adamant straight away, like, nah, this is not real. I'm not actually falling for any of this shit. And so it just seems a bit weird that as a book, like, there's no real character change except for like the nemesis, like her veil's just slowly getting lifted, but the protagonist
And
just
cat
doesn't
also has
go.
an arc.
Yeah, the cat does have an arc and chill. Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you, John. I
So,
totally agree with you, and that's what I meant. Like at the end, I didn't really feel like that of that. Like this is what it was trying to say. At the end, I didn't really know what the game was trying to say with this whole story. What am I supposed to take from it? What am I supposed to learn? I didn't really know. There wasn't any clear message, and I'm not really sure what the other mother was supposed to represent, or if she did at all, or if there was like a core lesson of Coraline. So yeah, I agree with you. It was super confusing. There was no character arc, and that's why I didn't really like the ending because I
Using
not
yeah.
confusing, but like in
plot
terms
wise, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
in terms like thematically. I didn't understand. At the end, I was like, oh, I don't know what the fuck changed with
Yeah,
Caroline.
for sure. I think if anything, if I was to assign like maybe like an overarching theme is like it's very similar to a coming of age like book or movie where it's not necessarily like in your face how the person has changed, but it's like an important event that's like happened in their lives. And but weirdly enough, like it doesn't really shift her perspective. We don't see her in any new light. Just something that she's went through. Which is
Yeah, yeah,
probably
yeah.
like it's kind of difficult to assign at that level, so I don't know.
In the end, like, what happens in the end? Like, she goes to Mrs. Sphinx's place and she gives him a hug, and they're like, damn, this bitch cool now. And then she learns the dude's name, Mr. Bobo. And what does she do with her parents? Does she do something with
No,
her
she just
parents?
hugs
Kisses
them.
her
Yeah.
dad on
Yeah,
the back of his head while he's working,
yeah,
and
yeah,
her
yeah,
dad
yeah, yeah.
turns
She kisses
around
him.
and
Yeah, so
kisses
I
him on the. That
don't,
was really sweet.
but like, I could have conceived her doing these things at the start of the book too.
Yeah,
So,
she wasn't rude to her
yeah, she
parents. She
didn't
wasn't
hate
like
them.
say
She was
anything.
just bored.
Yeah, she was just simply bored. She just did not know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. And it kind of felt like the book reinforces as well. They reinforce this all the time that she was bored. She was just bored. Like when she goes to see the other Sphinx's performance that goes on
Hmm.
forever, and the other mother comes out of it and she asks her, "Did you like it? Did you have a good time? Was it good?" And she says, "It was interesting." And she brings up a lot of the times that it was interesting, and that's what it is for her. It's interest. So they kind of explicitly pointed out a lot that she's just bored. She's here because it's interesting, and it's not really a big
Yeah.
character flaw.
Absolutely and utterly agreed. I think also another few interesting stuff that I was thinking about is there was, I think, just like a slight theme about identity and like names and stuff that always
Yes,
came up.
Mm.
I always
yes,
thought, I was like, damn, that's kind of interesting,
I wrote
especially
that
like with the
down.
cat. I really like that. That was really cool. Plus, she like learns people's names at the end. Like she learned Mr.
Yes.
Bobo's name. So I'm wondering if anyone caught a larger thematic connection of like
Um,
what names meant in like the grander scheme of things in the book.
that's another one of the things that I kind of have a problem with. I pointed this out too. So I actually went through the book to kind of look at every time names are brought up. First of all, Caroline obviously insists on enforcing her name, right? I didn't really know what it's about. So like at first glance, it's about how people don't understand Caroline, right? And that's why they get her name wrong. The next mention of it is that the cat says that humans have names because they don't know who they are. That's interesting. But then that's like kind of different to the original, like the names are about misidentity. This is like more misidentity of Caroline herself. These two things don't tie in, like Caroline is enforcing her name and humans having names. So they don't really lie in. And then during the scene with the two ladies,
Mhm.
Sphinx and Forcible, they quote Shakespeare and they say, "What's in a name? That which we call a rose by any other name will smell as sweet." Pretty much what that's saying is that you can call a rose anything and it would still be as sweet, so the name doesn't really matter.
Right.
Don't really know what that's supposed to mean either. And I think one of the last ones was one of the dead kids says that names are the first to go after the breath has gone. We keep our memories longer than our names. Names come up a lot,
Okay.
but I couldn't tie up a theme to it. I couldn't tie it down to like a message, which is like again my problem. Like I couldn't tie down a this is what she
I mean,
they're trying
just
to say.
because you can catch a theme or a message doesn't mean that it's not there.
I'm
For
not
sure.
saying
It definitely
I'm not
could be there. I
I
didn't
don't
catch it.
see it. Like
Me neither.
but that's my
Yeah.
problem is that with fairy tales are supposed to be for children and they're supposed to be so on the nose about it. So I would have liked it if it was a bit more obvious. Like a lot of times, if it was like Game of Thrones or something, I'd be very annoyed if it was a super like in your face. But this is a children's book, and
But
um
that's why I think it gives it its charm because I think most children books don't go for this very nuanced approach about its themes. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah,
It's very different in that regard.
I know what you're saying, but also I think children would struggle. We're struggling. We're 20.
Yeah.
I don't think children are gonna see this. Okay, like I know what you're saying, and I can appreciate it. Like it's different. A lot of books don't do this. It's refreshing for a children's book, but it's still a children's book.
Maybe not necessarily for children, but maybe for like early adolescents, it would be kind of interesting to read.
Yeah, or maybe these are just supposed to present ideas about identity and names that you're just supposed to sift through and kind of think about, and it's not really have anything directly to do
Yeah,
with
who
the story.
knows? Definitely. One
Yeah.
more theme I wanted to point out. There was heaps of analogies to insects all the
Yes.
time.
Yeah.
The other mother was definitely like a spider, and there was
Yeah.
stuff like I remember when she went into Mrs. Spink's little basement area thingamajiggy bob, and she was trying to get one of the souls. There was something like a cocoon. I don't know, everything. There was
Yep.
like heaps of metaphors to like
Yep.
insects.
And the adjectives they used, similes, were often insect related too. I'm not sure if that has any significance or if it was just like a aesthetic
Yeah,
choice.
maybe it's just definitely just an aesthetic because
That's pretty cool aesthetic. I fuck with it to be honest.
yeah, it's just like a spider trying to catch something onto its web.
I early on in the book, there's a quote that Caroline says. She goes to play outside because her mom tells her to fuck off, and then
Yeah.
she says she finds a hedgehog, a snake skin, but no snake, and a rock that
Mhm.
looks like a frog, and a toad that looks just like a rock, right?
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
I thought, super obvious callback, I'm gonna know what these things mean or represent. The only thing that I could find, and was super obvious, was that the ghost children say, that is why we could not leave here. When we died, she kept us, she fed on us until we've nothing left of ourselves, only snake skins and spider husks. Um,
Yeah.
so that's the only callback I did. I could not find what a hedgehog was supposed to represent, or a rock that looked like a frog and a toad that looked like just like a rock. I thought the rock and the toad were going to be Mrs. Sphinx and Mrs. Forcible just because of
I
that
think,
dual like two.
in my opinion, I think that was just a jewel because, like, when you go to the other mother's world, everything is kind of like a
Right,
reflection of something. Everything sort of looks similar.
right.
And I think that's the callback there. It's just like
I have no idea what a
stuff
hedgehog
can.
is.
Oh yeah, okay. The hedgehog doesn't make sense. I think that's how I'm interpreting that. If it does have any meaning, which
Yeah,
I'm not even sure it does.
yeah, of course. But it just seemed like one of those moments, like second time rereading, you'd be like, oh shit, they foreshadowed that in advance.
I want to say some
Okay,
quotes that I found funny. There was a really cool like hidden joke here
okay,
that I'll read. It was on page 53.
okay.
I'll just read it out. Can I have a big round of applause for the young volunteer? Asked Miss Spink. The dogs woofed and squealed and thumped their tails on the velvet seats. Now, Coraline, Miss Spink, What's your name?
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Yeah, that was so good.
I remember that. I think I wrote that down.
Yeah, that was cute.
And she was like, Coraline, said Coraline, and we don't know each other, do we?
Yeah,
It's pretty
Caroline
good.
said Caroline. I thought that was funny.
And another one that I liked was the other mother says nobody sensible believes in ghosts anyways. That's because they're all such liars. Get it?
Lawyers.
Because usually when you say nobody believes in ghosts because they just don't exist, but she's saying that because they're liars, that's why no one believes in them.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
really clever.
Yeah.
I really
I
like
really
that.
liked how that line was written.
Manny, we haven't gotten your
Um,
opinions yet.
Yeah, I think it's Manny's turn. I think I've discussed everything I wanted
you're
to
just
say.
gonna have to bear with me for a bit, fellas.
Okay.
What I'll say is that I really loved it, to be honest,
Loved it.
and while I
Yay!
understand your point of view in terms of literal plot elements and the fact that there isn't too much of an arc for Coraline, I just thought that aesthetically and just the way it's written is so evocative that I didn't really care.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Found it just
I agree
so
with that for sure.
interesting to read the whole time. Just the way Gaiman phrases things, like the ghost line,
Gaming.
like things like that are
Yeah,
present
very
the
clever.
whole
I'll
way
let you.
through, and it's just
Yeah.
like it was just so much fun to read.
Yeah.
I do feel like we're hyper fixating on this kids' book thing a bit. Like it's a book, you can judge it for what it is, and so I found that like the prose was good enough to where I didn't really even care about Coraline's arc, if that makes sense.
I see.
Like I was just too caught up in the sequence of events to
That makes
really
sense
pay
because
too much
like
attention to it.
you've not watched the movie, right?
I haven't.
Yeah, not at
I don't.
all.
I didn't remember it either.
All I really know about, all I know is that it's good.
I've watched the movie like inside and out. So
Yeah.
most of the time I was just noting differences. I just wanted to see different perspective on the character because I knew how the events would play out, even though they kind of have a slightly different in the movie. Actually, there's some notable like different timing issues and there's some character differences as well.
Yeah.
So that's what I was looking forward to in the book, just seeing how different Coraline was. Like the sequence of events is different. Coraline does have an arc in the movie, which obviously they have to make because it's a movie.
A minor thing, I found it interesting that time seemed to dilate over the length of the book within the tunnel. So like her initial journey into the tunnel seemed super short for the reader, and then what she went in 3 or 4 more times, and each time it felt longer until it was like kind of ridiculous on the last time when she was like running away, and it was super scary. And I have no thoughts about that. I just thought it was interesting, and so I wanted to mention it.
I didn't pick that up. Wait, did you say she was running in the tunnel for like ages?
It
Yeah,
wasn't.
Oh,
It
yes.
when
wasn't ages, but it was longer.
yeah, it's like
Oh,
she
yeah, she
noticed it was
did. She
longer,
says
but
that.
the way it was
Make the
written
tunnel a bit longer.
also felt like it was a longer journey upon each journey through that tunnel.
Yeah, true. The
You
last
know?
time she went through the tunnel, she noted down like a lot more things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I thought was interesting, and I do not know what that means at all. To
I
be
agree. That
honest,
was definitely interesting.
That's like one of my main unsatisfactions with it is that I feel like there are a lot of things in Caroline where it's like, oh yeah, that's a thing, but it doesn't it doesn't feels like it doesn't mean anything. Like, oh, I can't make the connection, or at least me personally, I can't make the connection easily of what that means. It's like, yeah, names and stuff, and yeah, the tunnel gets longer, but I don't know what that means in the grand scale of things, you know?
Yeah.
see, I personally think the complete opposite of this because it leaves room for you to be creative and like really create your own meaning for things
Yeah.
like upon multiple readings as you get comfortable with the prose and like you really know the ins and outs of a book, you can like assign your own meanings to things that aren't explicit at all or like probably have no meaning to gay man.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree with Manny on this. I feel as if it's definitely intentional on the author to kind of draw this creativity out of his readers. Just thinking about like who this book is for. It would be nice to like give young adolescents or children that ability to creatively think about, like fill in the gaps themselves.
Yeah.
Is nice. Doesn't need to be spelt out everything.
Yeah. No, I
But
agree with
I
that.
do understand your frustrations. Like sometimes it is nice to have a very nice, well thought out thematic message.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just not.
Yeah. No, I agree
Yeah.
with what you guys are saying. I'm just saying, like for me personally.
And the second thing I wanted to mention, which is more of a thematic thing, which was surprised that we didn't really talk about, was like the importance and the relevance of the theme of bravery and courage throughout the whole thing. Is a major, major aspect of the book. And again, I mostly just bring it up because I want to talk about it. I want to know what you guys think about how like it was presented and what Neil Gaiman had to say about courage throughout the book.
which
I
is
totally
very
agree
cool.
with it. And this is one of the things that actually like does have a direct line to children and is a good message is that a lot of the times Coraline isn't being brave. She isn't a brave kid. She's terrified a lot of times. There's a lot of points in the story where she has to tell herself that she's brave. Um, which has to, so I think that's a good message for children. You know, you might be scared that you're less brave than other kids, but everybody is scared, and it's only when you are scared that you can be brave. And I think that's a good message for children to have.
Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like the what came first, the chicken or the egg thing. Like, does courage come from being scared,
Right.
or is it because you're scared that you're courageous? You know.
That's one of the things that was really like reinforced and had a really good message, and I liked it a lot. To say. So thumbs up to bravery. Bravery is cool.
Whatever is cool. It also makes me think, like you mentioned, Caroline sort of had to almost make stuff up for herself just to get her to do things,
Yeah.
which she otherwise wouldn't do. And it makes me wonder about whether the way in which Coraline interpreted the world around her, sort of just being like a distortion of reality made by the other mother, like whether that's really the reality of the place, or she only sort of projected that idea onto the world just to make things easier for her to do. That's a theory, and I don't know if I subscribe to it, but
Just a
it
thought.
is a thought.
You're saying
Yeah.
that the
Oh, maybe.
so
I
the,
remember she says, oh, sorry to cut you off, Sam,
that's
but
okay. That's
you
okay.
know when she's trying to close the door and she like screams out, "No, I can do it," and then it just suddenly got easier or something.
Mm,
Yeah.
Like if she believes she could do it, she can do it.
yeah. I just wanted to mention, because I'm looking through my photos now. Do you guys remember the quote where Coraline is talking to the cat and he's like, why is only like a little bit of this world here? And then the cat's like, it's big enough for her.
Yes.
Spiders' webs only have to be large enough to catch flies.
Yes. I have that quite
Yeah,
clearly.
yeah, I
It's
remember
like,
that.
damn.
I like that quote as
Pretty
well.
cool.
That's a lot to say, damn.
It's a pretty good quote. Something I had to actually read up on was the stone she gets from Mr. Sphinx. Yeah, the stone she gets is something called a hagstone or an adderstone, and it is a stone that has a hole in it. I think it's from like water or some shit. I don't know. It's just like a naturally occurring phenomena, and it's associated with like warding off spirits and being a good thing. Yeah, so it's just like a general sign, and I had no idea what it was, and I was like, why is this rock so special? I was just thinking that the entire time. I was like, what's up with this rock, and why is it so goated? And another thing was, what the fuck is up with the pixie girl? Why is there a pixie girl? I don't understand the pixie girl.
Oh yeah, the one that had like
Yeah,
wings or
I
that's
don't
something.
get,
so
I
weird.
don't get the
That was
pixie
really
girl.
odd.
I was reading that and I was like, what?
The way I interpreted that was that the other mother has like a hold on two worlds, like our own world and
That's a
like
pretty
her
cool
world,
idea.
I guess. And she was like one of the creatures in her own world that she kind of murdered and took. So she got wings. I thought she was like kind of like a butterfly or a moth.
That's a cool interpretation, John. But fuck, I was reading that and I was like, wait, what? I had to reread it because
Yeah, I was
I
so
thought I
confused. I was like,
misunderstood.
like my first thought was like, what? Are they trying to just do like some really fucking overt angelic symbolism? And I was like, nah, it's just way too stupid.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, no way.
I don't
Yeah.
know what that pixie girl is about. But I don't
It'd be
know.
But
interesting.
she really liked her. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
oh, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Yeah,
I'm just quoting. I'm just quoting.
yeah.
Now thinking about the movie in retrospect, I think they kind of have the same idea, but I'd say they're different enough stories where I'd say like they're almost mutually exclusive. Like your
Interesting.
opinions on the book and the movie.
Do you like the movie better than book?
I just think they're two different stories. Like they're both trying to do two different things.
No, I just meant like personally.
Personally, I'd say I like them on the same level.
Okay.
On the same level. Yeah.
I do think that the visual medium suits Coraline a lot. I think it has a really cool
Oh, probably.
aesthetic, and it was a really good decision to adapt it.
Yeah.
It's so visually interesting, and as aphantasic as I am, I couldn't really grasp onto it that well. It was disappointing. But it's nice that they have visuals alongside it. That really helped.
Yeah, I like that. That was
I
like
liked
really
it.
interesting to look forward to for each chapter.
It was really good in terms of like setting the tone aesthetically for me.
That's
To
interesting because I personally looked at the images and then started imagining things in my own way.
I can't. I don't know if you know
I know you can't, but
that.
obviously, of course. But like for me, images didn't really do much for me
They're
as I
all I
was
had.
reading the book.
Andrew, I was just thinking of it exactly how the
The
movie
movie,
played out.
yeah. That's the problem with watching movies and visual mediums first and then reading, is that visual, they stick so much more, at least for me, that, like when I read Game of Thrones, I can't see the characters in anybody else but
Oh
who.
yeah, no. Of
Yeah,
course. Like, me reading Game of Thrones, I imagine like
yeah.
all the backdrops
But
and
if
everything
it was the
to the show.
if it was the other way around, instantly you can override your book opinions and be immersed in like
No, I
that.
watched the Dune trailer and I was fucking hating on all like the design decisions because I was like, man, that's not how I was imagining shit.
Yeah, definitely.
I like the other way around. I like,
I strongly agree with you, John.
yeah,
It's just a matter of efficiency, though, once you go from movies to books. Like, your brain isn't going to work to create its own image.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
Just, like,
exactly.
obviously.
I had the Coraline aesthetic in mind while reading it, but I didn't really have any solid image.
That's interesting. Because I was just, like, completely making up my own images the whole way through.
That's why these pictures were helpful, because I can stick with like an aesthetic, because an aesthetic has like a certain way it wants to make you feel, right? But I can't create my own aesthetic, to be honest. So the few pictures scattered in between were very useful. Oh yeah, the cat was obviously a rip on the Cheshire Cat. Oh, at
Also, I
least.
really liked the cat's personality. I thought it was epic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very cool.
I like the cat a
I
lot too.
enjoyed every personality very, very much. Every single person I thought was very, very interesting and enjoyable.
I wouldn't say I enjoyed all of them, but I did enjoy the cat the most.
Okay.
The dad in the basement. He gets locked away for telling Caroline too much.
I love how he's like inflating and becoming swollen because he was
Yeah,
talking shit.
yeah. And then there's that one scene where she's like, "You can fight it," and then she's like, "But I can't." And then he goes sicko mode.
Rawr,
I like that a
I'm
lot.
going to
I
eat you.
I hope that's in the movie. I don't think it
No.
is. Yeah, that's really sad because that was like one of my favorite scenes in terms of like
That was
confrontation.
like the only scene that had tension.
Yeah,
Like if you
exactly,
didn't know the events.
exactly. I really like that scene.
The scene where she's putting her hands in the sack, where
Oh
the two
yeah.
misses, Spink and whatever the fuck.
No,
That was
they
tense.
give it
Oh
back.
yeah, I really like that
Original.
giant sack with those two things in it. That's pretty cool.
In the movie, that's like said really creepily. So I imagine exactly like that.
That's a really good visual image, but not exactly scary. The dad thing I could kind of see as being quite terrifying, to be honest, if animated properly. That's really sad that they don't have that scene in the movies, because that was my favorite. God
It's
damn
not
it.
in the movie.
Yeah, according to John.
Wow.
No, they do a different
That
take with the
that scene
dad.
feels essential.
They did something different with the dad, which I don't like in the movie now, having read the book.
I also like the general setting of the other place of like this inky mess. That's what I kind of imagined it as, ink running near the edges. When she goes
Yeah.
out further and the trees become less discrete and more like homogeneous and
Yeah, and they just look like
Interesting.
ideas of trees. I thought that was
Yeah.
a very nice way
yeah.
of putting it.
So
Yeah, I thought about it similarly, except it was more of a sketch. It's gone from like a detailed drawing to a
yeah,
Yeah, to a sketch,
yeah.
and then it just
to
became
nothing.
slowly out.
I think
Yeah.
that was really cool. That was really cool.
Really cool.
I did like that a lot.
Because I found it super interesting that this world was just effectively a construction by this woman. And
Yeah.
as her intentions begin to fall apart, so does her construction. But what I found interesting about that is that the husband, that is also a construction in this world, right? And
Mm-hmm.
yet, this thing that she made deceived him.
Yeah.
Sorry, I deceived her, sorry. And upset her. It just made me
Hmm.
think. I didn't, follow the thought too much. But
Yeah,
I
that
did
is
find it
really
interesting.
Well, maybe she didn't
because
create it.
everything's being made from her own. Yeah, true.
Maybe she didn't create it, but it's more just like twisting it.
Twisting it, yeah, sure.
Because there is something else. She's not the biggest scary in the book. There's something in between the tunnels. Someone quotes it saying, I think it's the cat, who says that thing has been there far longer than the builder ever has. So there's something in there that's spooky, and Caroline is disturbed by it when she goes into there. She doesn't
Yeah.
like being there, obviously. And there's something in there. So I don't really know where that stands in this whole story. Maybe the builder was human once too and went through this tunnel created by this weird being and turned out to be weird and fucked up because she is lonely. When Caroline asks the cat why is she doing this, the cat says, "I think she wants something to love or something to eat." It's hard to tell with creatures like that.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that quote
Very
too.
cool stuff.
Yeah. So she is lonely. So maybe she was like once a human that came through this tunnel. I don't know how she gained these powers. I don't know why she's a spider, but maybe she slowly got twisted by the scenery as well, just like the world does on at the edges. Maybe she's now some weird, twisted version of a human being.
Oh,
Yeah.
Let us
That's very
wrap this book review up. What are your final scores out of 10? What would you rate this book?
from
Wow.
you, because you're at the top.
A 7 to a 7.5 out of 10.
Well,
Pretty decent rate.
John?
I'll give this an 8 out of 10, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 on my Goodreads. Hee hee.
Hee.
I am going to give it an 8.5 to a 9. And I'll
Wow.
probably give it a 4 on Goodreads.
Well, that was a good introductory book. Very short, about 200 pages.
Yeah.
Next book is Wuthering Heights. Can't wait to get into it.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Hee.
Jesus.
No,
What versions are you guys getting?
what
What does it look
versions?
like?
I got John's one, I think.
Yeah, the cold and desolate.
The Cold and Lonely by Car, yeah.
Oh my, the black car.
Yeah.
Yep.
That
Yep.
concludes.
Well,
I think that's it. I think we're done. I want to stop the recording now. Goodbye, friends.
bye, YouTube.
Oh, bless.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll
we
have to say
done.
this.
Oh, oh.
What?
Uh,
Ooh.
the dad sounded like he was handsome.